All right, people, welcome back. Here we're not going to be talking about Zero Linux, but we're going to be enjoying a weekly podcast that will be posted every Friday. Today I will have with me on the podcast, like every week, is my good friend Jesse.
Hello. This
Yeah,
is a lot of fun. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
well, no problem. And from every week, Jesse will be with me talking about the latest news in the Linux world, as well as other geeky subjects, all under the Linux umbrella, of course. You're not gonna catch us talking too much about Windows, now will they? We'll see. We'll just see about that. Okay, without further ado, we have three topics. We will be having three topics every week, with one main topic that will cover the majority of the podcast. And on this week's first topic, we are going to be talking about tiling on desktop environments. Is it a good idea or isn't it? What do you think, Jesse?
Well, tell you what, I'm going to take a back seat here. I think you've used a little bit more of the tiling window managers than I have. I have very little experience here, and I don't like them.
I don't like them either. Like as everybody knows, who has been part of the Zero Linux community for the past year, I don't hate them. I cannot say I hate them. The word hate has no place in my vocabulary. They're just not for me. But today I saw a video by one of the contributors to KDE, Nicolo. He uploaded a video talking about them bringing tiling to Plasma.
I don't know how I would feel if KDE started using tiling.
Well, not yet. It's a merge coming soon, but he doesn't even know if it's going to come in 526 or 527 or maybe 6.
Send me a link to that. I'd like to hear the original source.
Of course, but the link will be in the podcast description and on the website.
Sure. Can you gloss over the basic reasons that he even wanted to put it in Plasma?
It's not him. It was a community request. As everyone knows, KDE is run by the community, contributors. They contribute ideas, and if they get accepted, they get merged in. So in the video, he says that it was requested so many times that the merge request got semi-accepted, not completely accepted, because as he put it in the video, plugins do better work than they will ever do. There's a plugin on Plasma called Kwin Bismuth. That plugin does tiling way better than the one they're going to implement.
Did you try it?
Kwin Bismuth, yes. It's on Zero Linux but deactivated.
Okay.
The option is there in the settings, but of course I won't be enabling it ever. It's just up to the user if they want to, if they're crazy enough to want to. But the way they're gonna implement it is very basic. It's just they're working on the key bindings right now because you cannot enable tiling windows without key bindings. So for now, it's just very basic. You have to click Shift and drag a window with your mouse to put it in an area, and then let go, and then it will stick to that area. And you can divide it, and it will divide it the way you set it up. But the problem I have with their implementation is because Breeze, I'm not going to be talking about other themes, because Breeze is their creation, has shadows underneath windows. So if you have two windows next to each other, the active window will have a shadow. So it's gonna bleed out, and it looks really bad, really bad.
So, and if you have vision issues, I imagine it's going to be very difficult to use that.
Maybe I didn't think about it that way, but
It seems like it could be an accessibility issue, and people with vision problems should probably steer clear if it's
yeah,
going to look blurry. It
yeah.
sounds like it's going to look really blurry and out of focus, but not in an aesthetically pleasing way.
The way it looks right now is really bad. Now the users will are going to see this, not you, Jesse, but you'll see it in the
Right.
once the video is up. But I'm showing the users.
Highlight this. It is
I need to mute the audio. I forgot. Uh, I need to show them. I'm showing them what it will look like. Okay. So you see here in between the gaps. In i3 they call them i3 gaps, but in KDE they just call them spacers, I think. But in the space between each window, there's a shadow that drops. That shadow is really, really ugly. If they don't get rid of it for once they implement the tiling, I don't think it's gonna look good, and it's not. Nobody's gonna use it. Everybody's gonna stick to using bismuth if they really want window tiling, in my opinion.
Okay.
At least.
Now, when you say tiling, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong thing, but that brings to mind something that I haven't tried since I was in college learning how to use Ubuntu. And this was back in, when did I start? I started on 5.10. I think that was Warty Warthog.
Yeah.
And that was back when you had to order the CDs by mail, and
Or get it with a magazine.
We weren't doing bootable USBs. I don't remember if that was a widespread thing yet in 05. But anyway,
don't think so.
I tried a few very, very stripped down window managers, and what comes to mind was called Rat Poison.
Rat poison?
Yeah, the window manager was called Rat Poison, and it felt very like Windows 3.1 almost. So stripped down, so basic. All decorations were gone, all adornments were gone. It was barely a GUI.
Oh.
And I wonder if that's considered a tiling window manager. Can you check?
I'll check, but I need to.
Here, let me check that while you're continuing to show those ugly shadows, if you still are.
No, I want to show you now what I'm talking about.
Oh, hell no. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So
I don't like that one bit.
Yeah, see the shadow between the windows? That doesn't.
Yeah, that looks.
That's
that
not
looks
tiling.
so bad. No, that's not tiling.
That's not tiling. And see how they're doing it? You have to start the tiling system, and then each area you have to select the separate window manually.
I don't like that at all. Well, there it's not so bad.
See, but the benefit of this one, it has one neat feature is you can create an area. 1 second, I need to show the users as well. You can create a small area, and within that area, separate tiling windows. If you can see what I'm showing the users, it's kind of weird. It's a new tiling thing, and you can set the padding. They call it padding, not gaps. They call it padding.
Oh, you know why? Probably because I wonder if they're doing it in XML like a browser, and CSS would call it padding.
No, so they do everything in C++. So
okay,
but see this.
It was making me think of the CSS argument for padding.
Yeah, but see the area here in the small window? You can create another one on top of it, and then it's a mess right now, the way they're implementing it. I don't...
No, I don't.
KDE is a desktop environment. It's not a tiling. Why include a tiler on a desktop environment? That's an argument that a lot of people talk about, and they say, we want tiling on KDE, we want tiling on GNOME, but GNOME does it way better than KDE is doing right now. GNOME have
I have
one.
a soft spot for GNOME, so
Yeah, but GNOME, they have the Pop OS tiler, tiling windows, where you can enable tiling the proper way with gaps, and you can add multiple apps in each region.
Gotcha.
They turn into tabs. You click a separate tab, it's another application. Actually, it's not the same application. The way they do it in Cosmic and in GNOME is way better than KDE is doing right here. I will have this. I will have this video in the show notes, so everyone can watch it from beginning to end. But this implementation, although the idea is there, but the implementation is kind of all over the place. Because KDE, they don't know how to do tiling very well. It's not what they do. This is not their primary purpose. It's a desktop environment. But then again, the argument can be used. GNOME? How does GNOME do it better? For me personally, tiling should not be on a desktop environment. A desktop environment is a desktop environment, and a tiling window manager is a tiling window manager. Keep both separate. Don't you agree?
I really like a smooth desktop experience, and I think I would lose things in a tiling window manager. I'd lose track of them. It would feel cluttered. It would honestly feel like stacked up Post-it notes, and I don't want that.
And not only that, I agree with you, but in my eyes, it's like if you have a tiling window manager, if you're using a tiling window manager, you will rely on workspaces a lot. And
I don't use workspaces as it is.
I don't either, because I have 3 monitors. Why would I?
Right.
But
now, you bring up a good point here, and workspaces are great if you have the horsepower for it and no extra monitors.
And no extra monitors.
Workspaces are simply, a replacement for extra monitors, in my opinion.
Yes, exactly. Because at work, I have in the shop, I have a single monitor on my desktop, and I rely on 3 workspaces. Only 3. I don't need more.
Yep.
But like another podcaster, Matt from the Linux Cast, he's got 3 monitors, but he uses 19 workspaces or more.
I'm trying to sit here and think about what would drive me to do that, and I wonder if he's got each workspace configured for a certain project he's working on.
I think so.
And I could actually, you know what? I'm going to withdraw my previous statement and say that makes a lot of sense. If you are really productivity focused, I could see it, but it would take a long time to set up everything.
The way Matt does it is the reason Matt does it is because he's very productive. He's got a lot of applications that he works on, and when you have, no matter how big your monitors are, there's only so many applications you can fit on that monitor.
Sure.
Especially when you're dealing with coding and configuration files.
Right. Right. Again, good points here.
Yeah. So for productivity, yes. But for me, since I'm a distro maintainer, I just need 3 applications open, tops 4.
Right.
And I have the 3 monitors to put all my applications on. I don't have to rely on workspaces. But at work, I do with a lot of invoicing and a lot of work on Zero Linux and productivity-wise. I use 3 workspaces because of that reason.
Okay. It's making me wonder if, I'm a content creator and stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder if I should set up a workspace specifically for when I am streaming. I wonder if I've overlooked something that would be really useful.
Would be how many monitors do you have? 2.
Right now in my temporary space, I'm using my laptop and a TV.
A laptop and a TV. So
2.
Yeah. So if you have 2, but the TV is a little bit further than the laptop, right?
It is, right. And I like the TV because it sort of gives me a from the living room feel when I'm on streams right now. I don't like it as much as my Well, you remember my Neon Command
Yeah.
Center.
Yeah. Awesome. That was.
I have to bring that from the city I moved away from. My studio is still packed up in Philadelphia, but I miss it. Is what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say. I miss having
Yeah.
actual screens all right there.
Yeah. When I'm at work in the shop, I keep thinking of my 3 monitors, how to set up 3 monitors. But if you walk inside a store and seeing 3 monitors, that would give you a wrong impression. So
Right, that you don't care about the person coming in.
but I have to anyway. To me, it's it's a temporary space for me as well. It's just 6 hours during the day, so it's okay. Right. It's a small 22-inch monitor. It's just cozy, simple, and the desktop I have is a pure desktop. Remember the olden days when a desktop was a desktop horizontally on the table, a box on the table, and the monitor on top.
Yeah.
That's what I have in the store, but instead of a CRT monitor, I have an LCD monitor. So,
sure. Every once in a while, I think about building a sleeper PC in one of those old boxes.
That's what I did. That's what I did for the shop computer. It's a sleeper PC. Yeah. It's a Core i7-6800 from back in the day with 32 gigs of RAM with a beast of a GPU.
That's fantastic,
but people don't know what is inside it. They walk, it's an old hunk of junk.
Right, nobody wants that. But you bring up, you mentioned that you have a lot of RAM, and I do too.
Yeah.
I don't know if Matt touches on this in the podcast that you mentioned, but I think to really use that many workspaces, you're destroying RAM usage. It's got to be off the charts.
Yeah, he's got 32.
Did he mention what he's got? Okay.
He's got 32 or 64.
Yeah.
I understand. You're touching on a very sensitive subject. Don't you notice that a lot of Linux users, when they see RAM usage on cold boot higher than 500 to 600 megabytes, they go crazy?
I hear a lot of what I'll just call chatter. There's a lot of talk and chatter back and forth. Oh, there's too much RAM usage. The DE is too heavy.
Yeah.
GNOME gets it a lot. KDE gets it a lot.
Yeah, KDE used to get it a lot, but KDE 5 now with the 525, 526, they reduced.
KDE 5, just since KDE 5 period, they've been making big strides in that department.
Yeah. And
like it still feels like a heavyweight DE.
It is.
But you have so many features, and that's what makes it heavy. Like, it's unfair to critique how heavy something is without acknowledging the performance that comes with that.
Yes, especially that the way desktop environments are built is, okay, on cold boot, you might see low RAM usage. But as soon as you open a single application, that's where the RAM usage is going to shoot right back up.
Well, because it's loading the app into RAM, and then some of that is going to be given back to the OS once the functions and the libraries and the modules are loaded.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay, so we got to the point, let's say we got to the point where KDE on cold boot uses 500 megs of RAM. But that's not going to last more than a few seconds, because as soon as you open a browser, you open OBS. As it sits right now, I'm using 9 gigs of RAM with OBS.
Okay, you know what? I'll check my RAM usage, which probably is going to be much lower than yours.
Yeah.
Because you're doing the broadcast today, not me. So.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I'm moving too much. Can't see. Oh, what am I doing? Control.
Okay, system monitor. Mm-hmm. We all love system monitor.
Yeah.
I am using I'm using more than you.
Oh.
I right now am using 9.8 gigs, but I know why I'm using more.
Why?
Because we were talking about this offline. You know that I boot with the Grub Argument 2 RAM.
Ah, yes.
So even at idle, I'm using more because everything in the whole OS for me is loaded into RAM ready to go.
Yeah, I just checked
So I forgot about that.
I just launched HTOP, and I'm using 10.01 gigs.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
let's talk about RAM usage for a second.
Yeah.
I forget where I read it, and I'd love to create, excuse me, what are words? I'd love to credit the person who made the statement that I'm going to quote here, is that unused RAM is wasted RAM.
Oh, we're gonna get a lot of backlash for that one.
But I mean, if you put it there and you don't use it, why did you put it there?
Exactly. But and the reverse argument to that one, which a lot of users use, is if a lot of RAM is used, what are you left with to use for something else?
Well, that's why, I understand being conservative with RAM usage so that it's not wasteful.
Yeah.
But every computer is going to have practical limitations on what it can do all at once. Whether it's, you with 32 gigs, me with 64, people, in racks of servers with petabytes of RAM. Eventually, there is still a limit where you need more.
Yeah.
So you can have that argument forever.
Yes, exactly. It's like the same argument with iOS versus iOS, Mac. Versus Android. But you said something very interesting. Nowadays, low RAM is no longer an issue because RAM is getting less and less expensive. Like,
oh sure, yeah,
you can buy a laptop easily with the 16 gigs of RAM without it breaking the bank.
Right. Now, what there is as a response, some people feel that it has caused devs to get lazy and not watch RAM usage because they figure, oh, everybody's just got more now.
Yes.
So there are two sides to that argument, and I want to acknowledge both.
Yes. The problem with that is it's the stigma that Linux has. It's that Linux runs on a potato laptop. This is what.
Well, and
in some cases it does.
Right.
But you have to know which distro to select, or not distro. I cannot call it a distro. Which desktop environment or tiling window manager you select.
Well, actually, no. I would go as far as to even say distro, because there are more tools and more libraries and more drivers and more things in general under the hood, even when you strip the DE away.
Like,
what you're doing on, say, Zero Linux versus Kali versus Puppy versus what used to run on the Xbox OS, XBMC.
Yeah, XBMC, yeah.
Or Ubuntu Studio, or if you have a potato, you get the tools that run on a potato. You can't be mad that you're not running an Amazon cloud server on a potato.
Yes, my argument to that would be, if you have a potato, don't use a desktop environment. Just simply use Tiling Window Manager, because those things are so freaking light.
Well, maybe, or just strip it away and go straight up
TTY.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you really have a potato, you don't have the luxury of a window manager.
Use what works for your hardware. Don't go get something like, people come to me, for example, they love Zero Linux. I'm getting a lot of love around Zero Linux. Just yesterday I got
You deserve it. You deserve it.
Thanks. Just yesterday I got a boost in followers on Twitter, like 40 followers in one day. But the reason I don't like that a lot is because this influx of followers, subscribers, likers, whatever, they expect because they love the look of Zero Linux. They love what they see.
Mm-hmm.
I worked very hard on that, but it doesn't mean that it's going to work on a potato laptop. I warned people multiple times that Zero Linux is a desktop environment and it's KDE. It's running KDE.
Right.
Do your research first, because you will see that KDE is not meant to be run on something with a gig or 2 gigs of RAM.
No, really reading and understanding what you have is critical to making your computer perform optimally.
Yeah.
No matter what you're using, Windows, Mac, Linux, all of them have their use cases. And if you're gonna operate outside the use case, you might have a bad time and have some work to do.
Yeah, like I made the joke this morning. Like I have a Apple classic, what they call it, a Power Mac G5 from 2004 with a single gig of RAM, and I want to run Linux on it. And they asked me, "What are you thinking on running on that thing?" I told them, "What do you think? Zero Linux." And I waited to see. I waited to see if someone was going to process what I just said and realize. None of them did. So I'm like, I had to explain it. Of course, I'm not going to be running Zero Linux. I'm going to be running something with at least a window manager, because I want window managers use around 50 to 60 megabytes of RAM, as opposed to desktop environments. So I'm thinking on doing that. That's a project for the future, because I'm still waiting on the actual owner of the desktop to give it to me and leave it and forget about it. My dad, basically. Because that thing cost us $10K back in the day. He's really attached. Of course, yeah. He's really attached to it.
I get it. Yeah.
It's a beautiful machine, and I powered it on for the first time in 15 years. And
does it still chime?
Yes, it does, and it runs buttery smooth because it's running macOS 10.5.8.
Yeah.
Wow, and it's the dual CPU variant, dual physical CPU variant.
Oh yeah, those are dual socket boards are something that I'm looking to get into very soon.
I really want to put Linux on that thing. I'm itching to do that, but
so I would love to talk about that on an upcoming podcast, how they run on dual CPUs.
Yeah, we'll put that for the next episode. But I want to switch subjects because we only have an hour. The Steam Deck. I really want to discuss this with you, because a lot of people have been telling me lately that the Steam Deck is really helping the mass adoption of Linux. Is that a right argument to say, or it's?
I think that it's paving the way. I would agree, and I think that Steam OS has more to do with it than the Steam Deck, but they go hand in hand, because the Steam OS, people were trying to run that for years, and it wasn't quite ready. And I think that we're going to see a lot more development for Steam OS as a general operating system, because people are growing increasingly frustrated with Windows. There's not a lot of, I mean, I don't want to open that can of worms, but you hear it a lot in the tech podcasts, in the tech circles. I ran across something that I think is going to really drive a lot of people towards the Steam Deck and Linux. And it's hopefully the last time I'm going to bring up Windows on this episode.
No, but you said something interesting. But in my opinion, in my own humble opinion, it's not Steam OS or the Steam Deck that is directly pushing more people to use Linux, because you have to take it from this angle. Users are using they're buying the Steam Deck, not knowing it's running. Not everyone.
They don't care.
They don't care what it's running, as long as it runs their games in a handheld.
Right.
They don't. Not everyone is a tinkerer. Not everyone is.
Right.
Okay, I can switch to desktop mode. What is it running? Linux. Let me see how that works. Not everyone. They don't care.
No.
They just.
I think you're going to have a very big part of the user base that never even know that you can do that.
Exactly. And
like
people telling me, and I get a lot of people telling me, wow, it's an awesome replacement for a desktop. I'm like, no, it doesn't have the power.
It's really not. No.
And
It's kind of like how the GPU in an Xbox One or a PS5, the GPU is fantastic as long as you use it just for the games that were made for it. If you try to put that in a desktop, it's not going to perform the same way, and you're going to wonder how those games run on what feels like a hunk of crap. It's poorly optimized for that.
Exactly.
It's an extra feature that you should be grateful to have, but it's not the primary selling point. It never was.
Use everything for what it was built for. Don't, as soon as you start using it for something it wasn't built for, and it acts really poorly, don't judge it and call it, don't say it's crap, it's bad, it's
right. We should have the freedom to do whatever we want with our hardware, but if it doesn't do something it wasn't meant to do, it's not fair to be mad about it.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, there's a lot of users who say, "Oh, I can run OBS on that thing. I can broadcast from my Steam Deck." Oh, but the life expectancy of that CPU is going backwards.
That poor Steam Deck's going to be belching heat.
Yeah.
You know what, though? If I get my hands on a Steam Deck, you and I both know I'm going to try it.
Of course, we all are. We're tinkerers. We're tinkerers. So,
right. Is it a bad idea? Yes, let's do it.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. We do it. But not everyone, what I'm saying is not everyone is a tinkerer. Not everyone knows what Linux is or cares. They will boot on the desktop, try their hand at downloading apps, however they saw the tutorials online and whatever, and then go back to but there are a lot of users who who use the Steam Deck the way I would use the Steam Deck, and those people are my people, I call them, and you would agree with me on that one. Yes. They turn the Steam Deck into a retro deck.
Oh, that would be a lot of fun. Oh. And you're going to need desktop mode to set that up easily.
No problem.
But you could also do it. You could also do it over SSH, over terminals, or what have you.
Yeah,
But here's the thing. Here's the fun thing. You know, as fun as that is, what I also think we're going to see are people who treat it like a glorified Switch.
Oh, that's exactly
like a glorified Nintendo Switch that runs your Steam library.
Oh,
I really think that's. I might get some heat for this, but the non-geeky user base that buys it, I think they're going to see it that way. You're going to have the Switch OLED versus the Steam Deck.
Yeah, that is. Oh, and there is good news. The Steam Deck might be using the next Steam Deck, which they alluded to, will be coming with an OLED screen. But a retro handheld, because all the retro handhelds you find today that are running Windows. Oh my God!
I think I've seen some of those on Amazon.
Neo Air.
Why?
$1,500.
No.
What?
Just no.
What? No. I would buy the Steam Deck in a heartbeat, but there will be no Steam OS on it. I would. Right. The first thing I would do.
RetroArch?
Almost. It's called. What's it called? It's on the tip of my tongue. It's Batocera. Batocera runs Emulation Station on top of RetroArch and other standalone emulators. But it's a whole Linux operating system. The most important part, it's built on top of Linux, which the Steam Deck loves.
Right.
So running Batocera on the Steam Deck, this is the first and only thing I will do. I will not be running AAA titles or none of that. I will have an external drive. I still have my retro game collection, 36,000 titles spanning over
decades,
64 different machines, emulators basically,
Yeah,
up to the
just decades of games here.
yeah. So I will have that on the Steam Deck and nothing but that. I want the Steam Deck for that and nothing but that. Oh my God, will that be decades of gaming?
So let me just finish breaking my brain and laughing here. $1,500 for a handheld with Windows.
Yeah. $250 of that going to the Windows license, of course.
Right.
But $1,500.
I can't.
Who would put so much money for such a thing? A handheld.
For $1,500, I'd probably buy one of those dual socket boards off of AliExpress.
You can build a
and just
computer
do a
for that.
monster build.
Yeah, like
Why the hell would you put that much money into a handheld, except for the flex to say that you can?
Yeah, and my thing is, if you can afford this, okay, it's portable. A desktop is not portable. Right. The whole argument goes around that it's portable. Okay, but
I get that.
But if you have a desktop, not a desktop, those mini desktops like the Raspberry Pi, there's a new one. I forgot the name.
Well, the hardware's not. That's not a fair comparison hardware-wise.
There is one. There is one that just came out. I forgot the name of it.
What's it running?
It's got an amazing. Let me see.
It's got to be an AMD APU in there to get a form factor that small.
No, that's the thing. ETA Prime made a video about it. The Kadas 2. It's called the. One second, I'm looking it up. It's an amazing.
Unless is it that BPC thing?
I'll tell you exactly what it's called. It's Overwatch 2 Pi 800.
We might be thinking about the same thing. It's so tiny.
It is it's. I'm looking it up. The Pi Boy, no. Google Pixel 7 has done okay. Oh.
But I mean, budget PCs now versus when we were getting into, gaming or productivity or really any sort of even basic level of power use. Yeah. What you get for what you pay is at a all-time high.
Yeah, but this board is expensive. It's really expensive. Kadas Edge 2. It's called the Kadas Edge 2.
Yeah, I can see your screen here, and I think I can see it, the thumbnail.
Yeah, the new Kadas Edge 2. Okay, the audio is muted. This one.
Oh, that's so little. I don't know if the viewers can see what I'm seeing.
I'll show them. Yep. This one is called the new Kadas Edge 2, the most powerful ARM SBC ever gotten our hands on, but it is.
So looking at this build here, it looks like it is a heat management nightmare because I would have to say you've got the board, and is the CPU under that GPU?
Yeah. It's.
What are they doing to cool that?
They're using this cooling heatsink with a fan on top, but those are the specs. They got 8 cores.
An ARM CPU, so it's a cell phone CPU.
Yeah, but one of the most powerful RK versions. This is the fastest RK series rock chip CPU on an ARM CPU so far, and he was able to run PS2 games on it at 60 FPS.
That's impressive. Not gonna lie. So for your use as a portable retro box, you're fine.
This is what I recommend for users who say, "Oh, I don't want a desktop. It's not portable. I want a handheld to enjoy my games." He was able to play AAA titles on that thing. It's got
AAA from yesteryear, sure.
From yesteryear, not the current ones, but 16 gigs of 2133 megahertz RAM. This is amazing.
Sure, but if it doesn't run Fortnite, who cares, right?
The first thing he tested was Ubuntu.
Yeah. Look at that.
Ubuntu, but it plays 4K videos, no frame drops.
I'm not mad about it.
And this is Gran Turismo, whatever, for the PlayStation 2. Running.
You can absolutely see that's PS2 graphics.
Yeah, and
look at those polygons. Look at them.
No, but he was able to upscale to 3x.
Is that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater?
Yeah. So
I feel old.
So he was able to upscale them to 3 and 4x on this little tiny board. But this board, not on the cheap side. It's $300. So it's not a Raspberry Pi.
But you're paying for portability and a form factor that's not really adopted yet.
But look at those graphics. He upscaled something that would otherwise look like polygons. Here, they look way more smoothed out, and the reflection of the water is amazing. This didn't exist back then on those types of machines.
No, not at all.
So
it's really cool for what it is.
It is. This is what I recommend. Don't go getting a $1,500 worth of a handheld that does less than this does, or equal to what this does. It's $1,500. This is $300. Like, it's 5 times the price.
Sure. That Windows handheld makes me think of part-time I bartend.
Yeah.
So I know that you're not really a drinker, but hopefully this will make sense and a lot of the viewers will get it. That Windows handheld reminds me of, I had a gentleman and lady come into the bar, and they were very obviously on a date.
Yeah.
And they asked me to make them top shelf Long Island iced teas. I don't know if you've ever had that drink. It's 5 different spirits. Yeah, it's 5 different spirits. But after you pour the liquor, you're adding sweet and sour mix, which is more or less lemon juice, lime juice, and sugar, and Coca-Cola. So you've paid all this money for top shelf, 5 different top shelf spirits, covered in sugar and Coca-Cola, and spent extra money not to be able to taste the difference, but you can say that you afforded it.
Yeah. That's very similar.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel hearing about this Windows handheld. It's a top shelf Long Island iced tea.
Yeah. So why? This is, I cannot understand it. And you're for some reason you're frozen. I think it'll.
Yeah. It said that you turned off my video.
I didn't.
Or that the meat did. I wonder if it's because it says it's saving bandwidth.
Oh. Okay. Okay, you're back.
Okay, that's weird. All I did was I clicked Network Manager.
No, it was on my end.
Nothing.
It was on my end.
Steve, come on.
There was a pause button on the live feed. Why would someone pause the live feed? Sorry, guys.
All right,
we're figuring our bearings right here.
It's okay. So we are overshooting a little bit. If you want to move us along here.
Yeah, I was just about to do that. I'm gonna skip the third. I'll keep it for next week. But let's talk about the main subject of the meet today. Is Linux really for everyone? This is a subject that's near and dear to my heart as a distro maintainer, because the way a lot of YouTubers, I don't want to generalize, I just want to say a lot of YouTubers who talk about Linux, who are Linux advocates, and as they call themselves, zealots, talk about Linux. Linux is for everyone. There's a distro for everyone. It's true and untrue at the same time. It's true as in if you're new to Linux, you will find something to fit your needs. But in what area isn't it true? In the area where you will find something for you, but that something that you found that is for you will require you to do a lot of legwork to get it. It has the features you want, but you have to do some legwork to get those features working on your hardware. The problem with Linux that it has existed for a long time that makes it less easy to adopt is hardware support. You know what I mean?
Yes and no. I think that if you're really serious about Linux, you either want just under bleeding edge, or you want pretty smack dab in the middle of the road stuff that's been around long enough where it has good support. If you have something like that, you are going to have a good time. It's not so old that support doesn't exist anymore, and it's not so new that they haven't figured it out. If you're like most users and have something on the good side of mid-range, you're probably going to be okay.
Yes, but the problem is when they say it's for everyone, and it works for your hardware somewhat, you're always at some point going to reach a roadblock where you are forced to do a lot of legwork to get it back and up and running. Because with Linux, even with LTS releases like Ubuntu and Ubuntu LTS and whatnot, there will be a point where they will push something that when they tested worked, but not necessarily for your hardware combo. It worked for a different hardware combo with this device in it. It worked for them, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you with your combo. So a lot of reading has to take place. Something when they say, "Oh, you're going to install it and it's going to work right out of the box automatically."
Most of that does work, and I want to actually push back a little bit.
Okay.
On what you said here, and I've got a piece of hardware that'll illustrate my point. I was showing you my old Avid XLR interface, and the exact situation that you're having is the reason that I was able to get this on eBay. I got it for under $30 to use on Linux, because what happened was Mac OS, I want to say maybe Catalina or something along there. Once you got to that stage, Avid, which became M Audio, dropped support for the whole device. So this is not, here's where I'm pushing back. Hardware problems like that are not unique to Linux, and that's not fair.
Okay, you're right.
So you'll see Windows and Mac after XYZ version no longer support the device.
Yeah, you just reminded me of my keyboard issue where it's working on Linux now, but it's not working on Windows or Mac OS because they disabled the driver.
Right. Steve, I'm having a better experience as a Twitch streamer on Linux than I ever did on Windows, with the occasional headache.
Okay. For me, I just want to use this argument of Linux works for everyone. It doesn't work for everyone. You have to read, and when they say if it doesn't work for your current hardware, go buy hardware that is compatible with Linux.
Well, but it's the same. It is a less refined version of Windows or Mac having recommended specs on the box. It's the same thing. We just argue about it, and your regular users on the mainstream OSs accept it and buy accordingly, or they don't have a computer.
Yeah, but coming to a distro, like since I'm a distro maintainer, they come to the distro developer and they tell them, why don't you include X and Y and Z drivers into your ISO so it works for me? I'm like, if you okay, you came to me and I added the drivers for you. Another person comes to me and I add his drivers to the ISO, and another person comes to, and if 1,000 people come to me and I add all those 1,000 people's drivers on the ISO, would you be ready to download an ISO that is 300 gigs in size?
No, but that's what you have the repos for and guides on how to make it work.
Yeah,
that come from the community. You know, without
we have the AUR.
without the community, right?
On Arch, we have the AUR. That's why I built Zero Linux on Arch, because we got access to the AUR. You just run yay and the driver name. But you have to do the research of which driver works for your hardware. I don't have your hardware. Why would I? So don't expect to just hop in and download an ISO, burn it on a USB, boot it up, install it, and it's going to work right off the bat. Sometimes it will, because whatever distro they decided to integrate a general driver installer or whatever into the ISO, but some distributions don't, and you have to be prepared to do some work. But I'm not gonna dwell on this too much. It's just like it's near to me as a distro maintainer, because I want this thing to stop. I don't want people to think of Linux as in this holy grail that's gonna save you from Windows. It's getting there, but it needs a lot of time and a lot of developer work to get there.
How many years in a row have we seen the articles and the videos? 2022 is the year of Linux on the desktop. How many years have we been playing?
We're gonna see it forever. We're gonna see it forever, because they want to put a positive spin on Linux.
Oh, of course, and I mean, I've been using Linux now for 20 years, so it's come a long way.
It's come a long way. We didn't, in a short period of time where we were relying on very basic of basics. Now we have desktop environments, tiling window managers, and all that stuff in a very short amount of time. So it's getting there, but just like Wayland, it's still not there.
Right.
Anyway,
we're carrying around phones that outperform what the moon landing was done on. So
anyway, I just want to finish the podcast with a section I called the top three. The top three is where we talk about our top three apps that not top three apps weekly that we have used the past week, just the top three apps we use on a daily basis. I use OBS, Ferdium, and Gitahead. OBS because I do what I do, and without OBS we wouldn't be doing this podcast.
Sure.
Ferdium is because I like to have all my social media stuff in a single app, in a single window, rather than having them all thrown all over workspaces, as we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. I just want them isolated under one window, and that's it. But as for Gitahead, since I'm a distro maintainer, it's a GUI method to see the history, my git commit history.
Nice.
That's why I like those three applications. But OBS has come a long way. For me, OBS, I used to use OBS to stream from church every Sunday Mass. It was really clunky, but in a couple of months, once they switched to Flatpak and they optimized the thing in the past few months, it's been flawless ever since. What about you, Jesse?
So, my top three?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm doing a lot of the Steam runtime.
Okay.
Because that's where I'm playing all my games. I'm using OBS to push out to Twitch when I'm streaming the games. And honestly, I think the program I use the most on Zero Linux that's not those is probably just Konsole. Because I don't use the GUI as much as I look at it.
Oh.
I like to look at the GUI a lot and just see my pretty desktop. But if I want to do something quickly, I tap my super key and just start typing stuff if I'm using KDE, or I'll switch over to Konsole and I'll do all my system maintenance from there. I'm doing my updates that way. I'm doing my drivers that way. I can read log files just passing, the the verbose switch if something crashes. Linux without a terminal in whatever form you like it, you are underutilizing it.
I agree. I do.
So I will always have terminal love.
Same here. In the past few days, I created 4 scripts. One that we'll talk about in the next episode, but the other scripts are just automation scripts. Not automation scripts, just scripts that allow you to do things via steps. And the new, this is a video coming soon to the YouTube channel where I'm going to be talking about a new build script for Zero Linux that a good friend of the project has created. It will be an opportunity for us to move away from using ALCI, Arco Linux's ALCI. It will be all in-house. So, but there will be a video talking about that in the near future once it's ready.
Really excited.
Yeah, that's gonna make building Zero Linux just 3 taps, three clicks on the keyboard. So,
hey.
Yeah, he did a lot of amazing work. All right, we have come to the end of the podcast, and I want to mention that Jesse here is a Twitch streamer.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, this is what he does, and he streams awesome stuff. One of them being Mega Man, an all-time classic.
I love Mega Man.
Yeah, it's everybody's all-time classic, everybody's favorite. So we'll have a link in the show notes linking you guys to his Twitch, where you can watch him destroy the bots in Mega Man.
Well, sometimes I get destroyed, and it's almost funnier.
Yeah.
If I'm not playing Mega Man, I play a lot. I'm a bit of a variety streamer. Sometimes you'll see me driving around doing food deliveries on stream, actually.
Oh, cool.
It's not even just video games.
DoorDashing.
But a lot of people like my DoorDash streams too.
That's awesome.
Thank you for that.
No problem. As for me, you will find me anywhere and everywhere talking about Zero Linux. You're gonna have a headache, but and I
would you say you're an evangelist for Zero Linux?
Well, I'm the distro maintainer. I have to be. But I wanted to touch on one thing. People ask me, why is Tux in a jail in your logo?
Oh boy. Okay.
Quite simply, you can free him. You can free him. Very easy to free Tux from jail. They tell me stop butchering Tux. Well, he is in jail because of all the hate within.
Yeah.
I call it because of the hate within, because within Linux, under this umbrella called Linux, we have haters. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I've been using Linux for 2 years, not very long, the 10th of what Jesse here has been, but in this short time, I've seen the amount of hate, the word hate everywhere, and when people ask for support, getting answers like...
you hate GNOME, you hate KDE.
Yeah, hate. And when I saw places where people were asking for support, if they were not using a vanilla version of something, they were doing it wrong. Or if they encountered an issue in one place, they tell them, oh, if you don't know how to fix that, you shouldn't be using Linux. Get out of here.
Yeah.
So Tux, as a result, has been imprisoned. Poor Tux.
Free the Tux.
Free the Tux. Stop the hate.
But you know what, Steve? You know what? Says it right here on my T-shirt. Everything is going to be okay.
You are frozen because of bandwidth issues. It's I think it's on my end.
Okay.
Jitsi keeps wanting to save my bandwidth. I have enough bandwidth, Jitsi. I don't know. It's a
Did
connection.
You use the Flatpak version? Are you using it right?
No, it's browser.
I know. I'm more just piggybacking on exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Did you do it wrong?
Oh my God. Yeah, Jitsi has a bad bandwidth management system.
Okay, well, This was a fun podcast, and I will definitely be back.
All right.
Every
so, guys, catch us every week on Friday. We'll be recording it on Thursdays and then publishing it on Fridays.
Yep.
We need to do some work to the podcast afterwards. And Jesse, I heard you're running a GoFundMe. So
boy, I am running a GoFundMe. Yes. I moved from a larger city in the U.S. from Philadelphia to a small town in Virginia, and both my girlfriend and I moved together. And when we got here, things were just very different than we had anticipated and what was promised to us. She'd just had a couple of surgeries and left a while back, left a very abusive marriage. So we were looking for a fresh start. And when we got here, the rug got pulled out from under us and just thing after thing went wrong. So we, fell behind on some things. We floated things on credit cards when we, had to. And we got to a point where it had caught up to us faster than we could replenish. So it was a tough landing, but we make it through the month and we're going to be fine. We've got a good support system now. I'm involved, with this podcast. I've got a new job. She's got a new job. We just have to stay here long enough to take advantage of the things that we scrapped together.
All right, and I'll have a link in the show notes again for the GoFundMe. If anyone can help out, please. Any amount would be enough.
Steve, I have to thank you. I really appreciate you bringing that into the podcast.
No problem. Because I didn't bring it up just because you're doing it. You're with me here on the podcast. It's every human being that is in a bad situation. It's our job to help wherever we can, whenever we can.
Well, thank you.
And I'm running through the same thing. I'm showing the users now my fundraiser, because although I'm a distro maintainer, that doesn't mean I have all the money in the world.
No.
So maintaining
information wants to be free, but time is not.
Time is not, especially when the fact that I am from Lebanon, a country that's currently in a very, very tight spot. It's the entire country. Now, as of 3 days ago, we are presidentless. We have no president.
Oh, wow.
And this will go on for as long as, however long it takes until we elect a new one. And from past experiences, since the day I was born, it takes a year or two before we elect a president. Because of all
but you're safe.
But we're safe, thank the Lord.
Okay.
It just takes a long time because of political reasons, political parties fighting other political parties and stuff like that.
We're familiar with that.
As a result, we have an issue with power, where we have previously they used to turn the power off, but now we are the ones who have to turn the generators off from the mains, because the generator suppliers are hiking prices by up to 45%.
Yeah.
So
that's
we
tough.
can, without an income, we cannot maintain that. So what we can,
Of course,
with the limited income that we get from other family members outside the country, it helps a little bit, but it doesn't help us keep the lights on. As a result,
Right.
me working on Zero Linux for too long, we have to turn power off. And as a result, I can't work on Zero Linux. And the fundraiser is just to raise funds to pay for extra hours of power during the day, so I can put in extra hours on Zero Linux, making it better with every release.
It's a great distro and it deserves to live.
Yeah. So people keep asking me, is Zero Linux gonna live, or is Zero Linux gonna die just like every distro out there? Well, if I don't make enough to keep the lights on, it
Right.
is going to die, because it's out of my hands. But if we at least reach the monthly €900 goal, or dollars, because euros equals dollars now. So if we don't make the $900 monthly goal, I won't be able to pay for much. For now, we already paid for an extra hour per day for the past month, but it has been stale ever since. Haven't received a single dime for over 30 days.
Oh
So,
wow!
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
guys, do what you can for Steve here. It's a great distro. Give it a look. Give it a try on bare metal, and
yeah,
it's a good time.
I'll do my best to help wherever I can. And one last thing, the podcast website, although it shows in the lower thirds, it shows bytes.zerolinux.xyz. The website's not yet up. It's in development. For now, you can watch the videos on YouTube, and you can catch the audio-only version on Anchor, and I will have links to every single podcast, audio podcast service known to man, because...
Yep.
So
Get it out there.
Yeah, it'll be out there. Thank you for putting up with us for with the technical difficulties. It's day 0 episode, so we'll do our best to get rid of those difficulties for the future. Thank you, Jesse. Awesome co-host.
Anytime, Steve.
Awesome co-host.
So
and
we'll do it again next week.
yeah, that awesome smile kept a smile on my face.
Thank you. All right.
All right, guys.
Goodbye, everybody.
We'll catch you next week. Take care, everyone.